Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dota 2 Builds of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys top 5 meta builds to help you get started with new heroes in Dota 2. As always, a link to my Twitch is down in the description below if you'd like to catch the action live, as is a link to each of the builds we're discussing today. And if you'd like to support the series, smashing the like button is the best thing you can do because apparently that's all the algorithm cares about. Regardless, today we're getting started with position 1 Naga Siren. Now, it's funny because we started with Terribly last week, and now we're on Naga Siren, another illusion hero. And if you don't play illusion heroes, you're probably thinking, damn it, Alex, why can't you do someone a little more straightforward? Why has it got to be an illusion hero? Well, Naga's actually doing pretty well right now and is seeing some pro play, and especially at high MMR, the meta. And what's interesting is that the build is one that has been very consistent, taking advantage of the ability for her to do a tremendous amount of work on the map using her illusions. So let's talk about it. So basically, the major change to this build as it was prior was that before you were going 2 to 3 Wraith Bands, and now you're going single Wraith Band into Power Treads into a Ring of Basilius. And the reason why you're doing the Ring of Basilius is because Mirror Image requires a lot of mana. The image durations are significant, they last long, but they require you to kind of utilize a lot of mana in order to maintain their uptime. Now keep in mind, Riptide allows you to farm incredibly fast, especially with your illusions. So that's why you're going that Ring of Basilius, and a lot of pros have been building this Ring of Basilius as a value point. And then you go to the Manta. You know, that's standard flare. Everyone knows Manta is great. But what's interesting is you're also going Orchid. So this is kind of a new variation of the build that I'm seeing here. And so what you're doing is once you finish your Manta, you build your Orchid and you start fighting. Usually, Naga Sirens were like the hero that would just keep farming until they had to fight. And then you'd fight a Naga Siren and they already have their Scotty and their Heart of Tarrasque and they're huge and they just end the game. But the new meta is that, like, teams are pressuring heroes faster, they're pressuring heroes earlier, and team fights are occurring earlier. So the result is that you're seeing a lot of pros building this Orchid so that they can kind of be involved in fights earlier on. And then, of course, you have the Song of the Siren to utilize as an appropriate escape. But regardless, once you have your Orchid, you are finishing your Scotty. It's just way too good on illusion-based heroes like Naga Siren. And then you're going back and finishing your Bloodthorn so that you can then, appropriately kind of take down enemies in conjunction with your Aghanim's Scepter. And then finally, you finish the build with your Heart of Tarrasque. Now, I know this, you're like, Alex, this is a ton of super expensive items. Like, this isn't a build, this is a wish list. But this is how Naga Siren's played. You basically take over the map, you farm incredibly well. Even if your team's behind, getting pushed into your high ground, you use your mirror images and Manta illusions to push out the waves. You're continuously farming on a Naga Siren, and you're getting rid of your Wraith Band and your Ring of Basilius to make room for your Ags and your Heart of Tarrasque. So the build actually makes perfect sense. Is it greedy? Yes, but that's exactly what Naga Siren wants. It feels like yesterday we were talking about Zeus, and that's because it was. We were talking about Zeus last week as a position 4, and this week we're talking about Zeus's traditional position, mid. And this is awesome because in the pro meta in high tier MMR, you're seeing a lot of Zeus being played in both position 4 and in mid, but there have been some significant changes to the way he's playing mid, so I want to touch on that in this video. And if you are new to Dota and you're playing the mid role, I actually did a complete beginner's guide on Zeus, and I'll link it up above, which will help you get started for everything you need to know. But regardless, let me give you a quick breakdown of the up-to-date build. So essentially, you are focusing on Arc Lightning early. It's simply because for the first couple levels, you can use this right click to last hit, but other than that, it sucks super bad. You almost never right click as a Zeus. So Arc Lightning is essentially used as your last hitting capability. The advantage to the Arc Lightning as well is that you're going to push the enemy wave under the tower, which allows you to take this small camp as well, which gives you the opportunity to ensure that you can kind of build a level and a net worth advantage. You're taking value points in Heavenly Jump and Lightning Bolt as well. Now, the way that this has been changed, okay, is that traditionally you have been building, Aether Lens. Okay, that's kind of been the core build. You're playing Zeus, you're staying far back and just kind of blowing people up from a distance. You can still build Aether Lens if you want. But the way pros are playing him right now is you're actually you're taking the tangos and iron branches. You're actually using the iron branches. So you drop the branch, you eat it with a tango to get the extended health, right? You can build them into magic wands if you so choose, which is great. But you're going double null talisman into boots, into Kaya Sange. And this is what's interesting. Instead of going Aether Lens after your boots, you're going Kaya Sange. And the reason for this is because with Heavenly Jump being a core ability now, you have that added survivability that if you get gone on, you can reposition with Heavenly Jump. So people are focusing in on the mana amplification, the regen amplification, the status resistance, and the spell amp, 16% on Kaya Sange, and it's absolutely incredible on someone like Zeus and really amplifies his damage capabilities. And then you go Shard. An important note here is that if you have to get Shard at 15 minutes, no matter what. So if you're building Kaya Sange and you have the Kaya done and you have a choice between getting Sange completed or the Shard at 15 minutes, most pros are actually keeping the Kaya, taking the Shard, and then finishing Kaya Sange after. It delays it a little bit, and of course you want the benefit of all of them. It's a great combo. However, if you have the choice between finishing your Kaya Sange and getting the Shard at 15 minutes, get the Shard first and then finish Kaya Sange. You delay it by a couple minutes, but the Shard is that impactful for Zeus's DPS. And then you're going Scepter for Nimbus, you finish it off with an Octarine Core, then you disassemble your boots to get the last component of the Octarine Core, you build Boots of Travel, and then that Refresher Orb, okay? Fantastic. Refresher Orb, who doesn't like Refresher Orb, right? It gives you the opportunity to do a ton of damage with Thunder God's Wrath and Nimbus, and outside of that, it is the core build. And a lot of pros also, the main item that a lot of people sleep on Zeus, is Blink Dagger. Provides you with a lot of repositioning capabilities, but regardless, Zeus mid is back in the meta and a hero worth playing, especially if you're relatively new to the role. Alright, so hear me out on this one. This is an off-lane Bristleback build. However, you're seeing a whole lot of safe lane Bristleback as well, so this build can be applied to both because they're actually being played in a very similar manner, so keep that in mind when you're picking Bristleback. But right now, I want you guys to know that Bristleback is seeing a lot of play in the current DPC and in the pro meta, and what's interesting is that he is being played safe lane, and this is not very common. It has traditionally happened, but Bristleback's one of those like very traditional offlane heroes. Like he's like a centaur, and he's a hero that you usually see in the offlane, but suddenly he's being picked in the position 1 as well. And I'm going to explain the build and how it's being played because it is a little unique to what we have traditionally seen from a Bristleback. So the way this is being done is you are focusing on Quill Spray, but there's a couple things I want you to know. With Quill Spray, you're going to notice that the base damage increases significantly from 25 to 45 from level 1 to 3. So you don't want to actually spam it all that often in level 1. Usually you want to spam it more at level 3 where you can actually get some more kill potential. You use it to kind of secure last hits and stuff, and it's up to you. Some pros are building a... actually, I should rephrase that. Almost no pro builds a Bracer before their Vanguard, but if you're someone who has a hard time last hitting with Bristleback, you can actually change one of these to a Circlet, build a Bracer, and delay your Vanguard slightly, although of course the Ring of Regeneration is super valuable for a Bristleback, so it's up to you, but you are taking as much stats as you can up front. This is 6 additional damage, which you really want. You want that Quelling Blade because his base right-click damage is really low. But there's a reason for that, because it becomes absolutely broken later. So the way the build works is you build your Vanguard, absolutely required, Phase Boots into Soul Ring into Hood of Defiance. Now you're thinking, Alex, why am I building Hood of Defiance and Vanguard? Shouldn't I be picking one? Well, with Bristleback, it often benefits you building both. And the reason for this is because he is a frontliner that absorbs a ton of damage. And the Vanguard is beneficial because it allows you to really solidify your early game, cut waves, take over the enemy jungle, and just be an overall nuisance. Whereas the Hood of Defiance allows you to solidify your mid game. Now, what was traditionally being done is you're building into Eternal Shroud Kaya Sange. But the way it's being played now is after you get your Hood of Defiance, you're actually rushing Aghanim's Scepter so that your Viscous Nasal Goo can basically be AoE, which actually just recently got buffed, I should add. And then what you're doing is going BKB into Shard AC. Now that's kind of weird, isn't it? Why would you buy an AC? Well, because one of the things that a lot of people sleep on with Bristleback, sorry for bumping the mic there, is that he does an insane amount of damage. People often overlook how Warpath works. He's doing additional damage per stack. 35 additional damage per stack. You take the damage talent here, you take the attack speed talent here, and if you want to be really greedy, instead of going Phase Boots, you go Power Treads for the added attack speed. You just run guys down. Like, literally, the amount of right-click damage you do as a Bristleback is insane. And with the Ags, what you do is you basically just spam Q the entire game. You want your stacks maxed out all the time, even if there's no enemies around. Just keep hitting Q because you want to have max stacks. You run it, guys, you right-click them. It's like almost like a rapier in damage. It's like 250 or something. I'm doing bro math off the top of my head right now. But it is like literally almost a rapier in damage. Just your ultimate, right? People are really sleeping on this right-click build, especially when you consider, like, and what I mean is when you have the Warpath 25 talent and Warpath itself, that is like basically a rapier. It's insane how much extra damage you do as a Bristleback. So a lot of people are sleeping on it, especially when you add AC, add attack speed, added armor, your frontliner. They have reduced armor. You're reducing armor with Viscous Nasal Goo as well. They're slowed. You're just right-clicking guys like crazy. It is a super awesome build, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people going safe lane with it. You can also do the same thing from the off lane. So Bristleback is in a really interesting spot right now. Yes, he gets countered a lot by vessels and stuff like that. You often probably need to get a Lotus Orb, or someone needs to get a Lotus Orb to help you out a little bit. But regardless of that, Bristle is in a really cool spot right now. He's seen a couple buffs, and he's being played in a very interesting style. Marci, position 4 soft support. Now, what's interesting about Marci is that, you know, she only recently got included into the pro drafts. So the result of this is that, like, people weren't really sure where pros were going to place her. Some people were like, oh, is she an offlaner? Because she kind of works there. Is she a support, position 4 or 5? And people have kind of solidified that she's a position 4. And the reason for this is because she has a stun and dispose. She displaces people with dispose. She's able to initiate with rebound. And quite frankly, she's super hard to lane against with the right offlane matchup. So if you have like a Viper, a Centaur, a Slardar, and Mars, anybody that really is capable of punishing an enemy who's out of position, you dominate lanes, right? So that is why Marci position 4 is being played the way she is. Let's talk about the build. So essentially, you're taking dispose and rebound early on. Those are the skills you're focusing in on. You want to dispose people under your tower, dispose them out of position for the kills, and you want to rebound in a way that allows you to kind of amplify your movement speed, but also you can use it to help your enemy escape if they get gone on, because they get 45% movement speed for 5 seconds. If your ally's getting gone on, you can kind of bounce off them to stun or dispose the enemies and you know, allow them to get away. You're taking points later on sidekick, which is super useful for team fights, and you'll also see that you're taking these sidekick talents later on as well. But also, the key thing here is you are taking Arcane Boots and Aether Lens. One thing you need to understand, though, is with Marci, a Magic Wand is absolutely required because she is consistently in the middle of the fights. If you don't have Magic Wand, you're literally griefing, okay? It's an item you're going to hold basically the entire game as a Marci position 4. It'll provide you with a significant amount of value. You're going into Tranquils, Blink Dagger, and BKB because as a Marci, if you get stunned, locked down, like, you're pretty much useless, so you want that early BKB. She also benefits from the strength and the damage with the way her Unleash works. With that being said, there's a couple core ways her builds are being done. If you find yourself really mana strapped, once you actually disassemble your Arcane Boots to build your Aether Lens, you can then go Tranquil Boots into a Soul Ring if you so choose. It provides you with that regeneration to keep your mana up. She also benefits from being a hero that can build pretty much anything. You want to build Vessel? She can do it. You want to build a Solar Crest? She can do it. But Solar Crest is a little sketch because you're kind of in the middle of the fight, so giving up your armor can kind of feel bad at times, but that's a discussion for another day. It kind of gets offset by your armor talent, but whatever. It's something to keep in mind against a lot of physical lineups. Okay, 4 staffs. Halbert's a great item for her, especially since she's always in there. The status resistance, the evasion, the strength. She benefits from all of it. So if someone needs to build a Halbert on the team, as a position 4, take it on because it's going to help you survive. And then finally get your drums into Boots of Bongo, which is super valuable, and your Wraith Pack, which is a great extension item for pretty much everyone right now, regardless. But anyways, that's how Marci's being played in position 4. One thing to note, though, is that like the laning with her does take practice. It's not like you're laning as a Skywrath mage or a Lina or someone that can easily just right-click people from far away. She takes some nuance to laning with, so give it a couple games, stay patient, and you'll be rewarded with one of the biggest bullies in the off lane as a soft support. Now, here's a guy that everyone thought sucked for the longest time, and guess what? He doesn't really suck that bad anymore, but some would still like to argue that like they want to see a little more from Warlock. But there's a couple builds that are coming out that are pretty interesting with Warlock, especially from a healing standpoint. And if you're one of those, listen, if you're old like me and you played World of Warcraft, you remember being in the raid and being a healing bot as like a druid or a shaman or a priest or whatever, and, you know, clicking all your buttons, keeping everyone else alive, well, then you're going to love the new Warlock because that's essentially what you're doing. You're literally a raid healer as a position 5 Warlock. Let's talk about the build. So basically, you're taking Shadow Word early on. Fatal Bonds is a value point with Upheaval as a value point as well. Fatal Bonds is useful for like breaking salves and like regen and stuff like that, but really you can't count on it as legitimate damage during the laning phase. It's kind of an underwhelming and awkward ability to use at times because you can also push the lane in, which some of your position ones won't want to do, that most won't want to do, honestly. But regardless, you're focusing in on Shadow Word. This is the skill you want. And your whole game, all the talents revolve around Shadow Word. What you're doing is you're basically going straight up Ring of Basilius. Now you're thinking, Alex, that is absolute madness. I've never seen you do this before. That is how pros are playing Warlock right now. You're taking a tango, you go straight up Ring of Basilius, and your Sentry Ward to block the enemy camp. And then what you're doing is you're going right to Boots, right to your Shard. Literally boot shard. That's what you're doing. The shard gives you the AoE 15, like right at 15 minutes, as I have in the description here. Get it as a priority. It gives you AoE Shadow Word, which not only allows you to heal your entire team, but also allows you to debuff the entire enemy team. It also allows you to debuff waves, which is super valuable as well. Then you're going Holy Locket. Hell yeah, you're going Holy Locket into an Aether Lens. This is the definition of a backline healing caster. You're standing in the back. If you're getting gone on by PAs and stuff, you get your Ghost Scepter. You stand in the back and you literally just heal guys and then drop golems when you need to drop them, right? The extension of this build is to essentially, now you kind of need the mana, but what you can do is you can say, okay, I got some money. We had a good lane. I can disassemble the Arcane Boots when I'm building the Aether Lens and then go towards Boots of Bearing. Or what a lot of people like to do is they like to finish the Holy Locket, finish the Aether Lens, and then build a mech because of the healing, right? So not only you AoE healing with Shadow Word, you get that burst of healing from Mechanism as well, which is incredible. You could also go Wraith Pact, a very viable choice. And then you obviously have your support items in like Glimmer Cape and Force Staff. It's up to you depending on the game situation. If you want to be an absolute savage, the most popular build for Mr. Golem Dropper over here is to not build your Holy Locket and Aether Lens, get your boots, not even go Magnum Shard, and just go Scepter into your Refresh Orb. If you want to meme it up and just team fight guys, that's what you can do. But the real build is this healing-centric build that pros are currently testing. Thank you so much for watching, and a very special thank you to all of our wonderful subscribers. We'll see you in the next Dota 2 video.